Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast. It's the 14th of April 2022. My name is Mark Hillary and I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
And I'm Peter Ryan in Montreal, Quebec. But earlier, the past few days, I was in Poland attending a very interesting conference, Mark, and that's going to be the subject of the CX Files this week.
Well, yes, I was just going to sort of let you do the intro for this because I know that you went out to Poland last week and you've got an interview with the organizer of the conference that you were at. So how was it like speaking at a real event again?
It was surreal in many ways. The last conference I attended and spoke at was about 2.5 years ago. And there's always that old saying about falling off a bike and getting back on, and you never forget what you're supposed to do. And I really was quite nervous, if I'm honest with you, Mark, before I went in to do my presentation at the BSS forum that was put on by Pro Progressio. But once I got back up on stage, once I got the microphone in hand and the PowerPoint clicker ready to go, things went quite well. And the feedback on the presentation was overwhelmingly positive. I felt good, and it was also great being able to go to an event and to press the flesh. It was nice being able to meet up with people, to be able to chat with them face to face, to be able to exchange business cards. And yes, people still do use business cards, I found. Certainly they do in Poland. Overall, a very positive experience. And quite frankly, the event itself was incredibly well attended, and the mind share that came out of it, I think, was second to none.
So tell us about the interview then.
Sure. So I had the chance to catch up on site with Wiktor Doktór. Now, Wiktor is the chairman of Pro Progressio, which is an organization dedicated to the promotion and to the reporting on of the outsourcing space or business services space in Poland. As it goes, I think probably the most important organization on the ground doing this in that country right now. What I would say about the event itself was that it was attended by people from all across the business services ecosystem, ranging from technology to human resources and recruitment, all the way through to the providers themselves. And Wiktor talks a little bit about the history of the event, about his vision for what these events are going to bring forward. We talk a little bit about the role of these events in terms of promoting the industry, both within the client space as well as to different levels of government who might not be aware of the jobs that business services bring in Poland. And we also have a little bit of fun talking about the event itself this year, the theme being Wind of Change, and how the title of one of the best Scorpion songs of all time actually became the theme for the event.
That's cool. I think, I listened to the interview earlier and I thought it was interesting because, who would have thought that we need people to be talking about European Union and NATO membership as, part of the security that makes a place more attractive. But then, we never would have imagined that a ground war in Europe taking place during our lifetime, and Poland's right next to Ukraine. So how did it feel when you were there, and what was Wiktor saying about that?
Well, look, when I was on the ground in Poland, I will admit there was certainly a lot of posters and a lot of signage around the Tri-City areas as well as Warsaw, talking about the solidarity with Ukraine. And there was certainly a lot of discussion about the large number of Ukrainian refugees that have been coming in. And I would be remiss to say if I didn't tell you, Mark, at the gala, probably the most well-received speech that was given that evening was by a representative of the Ukrainian IT Association, who literally had the audience in her hand, talking about the future, not just about Ukraine, but also about IT professionals and the fact that so many of them are still working and that they desire to take on projects coming from all around the world. Truly an inspirational moment for the event. Broadly speaking, from my perspective, we didn't see a lot of evidence of any type of a conflict going on. Where I was relatively isolated from what was happening. We weren't close to the border, although it did bring it home when I was having supper with somebody one night, and they happened to mention that in Gdańsk, where we were situated for the event, we were roughly 40 kilometers away from the Russian Baltic Naval Fleet, and that brings it home a little bit. But from the standpoint of seeing any evidence of the conflict, where I was in Warsaw or in the Tri-Cities area, we didn't see any of it.
And I thought it was interesting that you were mentioning there about educating people around business services, because so often BPO is assumed to just be contact centers and customer service processes. Yeah. But what were the sort of services that they were talking about there?
Well, there was a lot of different services ranging from technology to back office work, elements such as finance and accounting. And I found out that Poland has got a very robust finance and accounting business services ecosystem, as well as I think perhaps some of the more sophisticated elements that would take into account things like knowledge management or legal process outsourcing. So really, for a country that's the size of Poland, and it is the largest single country in Central and Eastern Europe as we know it in terms of what we would classify the traditional CEE. There's a lot to offer. There's a lot of different organizations that are doing the offering about solutions. And based on the discussion that I had with Wiktor, it sounds like very, very bright skies are ahead, certainly being encapsulated by Poland's ranking as the second most favorable offshore CX destination, which I announced live at the event from the 2022 Front Office Omnibus Survey that Ryan Strategic Advisory has put together.
Okay, that's great. Let's end the introduction there and go straight to the interview with Wiktor.
Sounds great. It's so exciting to be in the Tri-Cities area of Poland for the Pro Progressio Winds of Change Forum. Now, I'm very fortunate as well to be with the organizer of the event, the chairman of Pro Progressio, the organization that has organized the Wind of Change BSS Forum, Wiktor Doktór. Wiktor, it's great to be with you today, and thanks for taking a few minutes out of the conference for chatting with the CX Files.
Oh, yes, Peter, thank you very much for joining us. I must say that I was looking very much forward to your visit coming to Poland. First of all, after analyzing all of your details of the reports which you prepared in the previous years, and I was also very much waiting for your speech, which, to be honest, was quite crowded, the room. So we listened very carefully to this, what you were sharing with us.
Well, thank you, Wiktor. It was a great opportunity to get out. And as I mentioned during my presentation, it was the first speech that I've given live in about 2.5 years. So it was truly an honor to be able to do it at your event. And let's start with that as our first topic of discussion. Can you give me a little bit of a background on the annual BSS event that Pro Progressio puts on? What's the objective of these annual gatherings?
So I think we need to make one step even back into the past, because 9 years ago, when we started business events, there were no BSS forums. It was only the Outsourcing Stars Gala, which we started, and we wanted to celebrate like a year in the business where representatives of such companies like call contact centers, finance and accounting centers, IT companies could talk together about the various trends and challenges which happened within the closing year, and then we were awarding the fastest growing companies within that gala. But like 6 years ago, we found out that actually there are too many topics to be discussed during the gala, and gala is just for celebration. So we decided to create the BSS Forum. And BSS Forum since 6 years is an international event where we talk to various experts of the industry, and we want to know what is happening in the world, not only in our country. I know that Polish people want to say that we are the best ever in the world, but to be honest, the best practices are coming from other countries as well. So the history of this event is that we wanted to have international presence in Poland, focusing on the current trends in the BSS industry.
Now, something that struck me at the event was the extent to which the BPO or business services ecosystem was represented by really a whole cross-section of stakeholders. I saw people there from the technology side, from human resources, from recruitment, from the actual service providers. Based on your experience, who generally participates in the annual BSS forum that Pro Progressio holds?
This is a very good summary which you just made. The one connector, there is only one connector between all of those entities and organizations. All of them work in B2B model. So any company who is providing services or selling products to the business clients is present on that event. That is why we have the representatives of the BPO companies or call contact centers, the legal entities or the consulting business, the real estate advisors, but also the representatives of HR. But for all of them, the connecting point is B2B client. Of course, within that group, we have also organizations who are not selling, but providing services to their own companies, like shared service centers, for example. Yeah, so this is a group of entities which is growing every year, and we have a big pleasure to host all of them within our event.
It strikes me that when most people are going to think business service delivery in Poland, and I say when most people from outside Poland would associate that concept with a city, they would probably think Warsaw, but this year it was held in the Tri-Cities. Can you talk a little bit about what the reason was to choose the greater Gdańsk area as the site for this very exciting event?
Of course, Poland, for those of people who are not familiar with our geography, is a country where we are not dominated by one city. We have actually a couple of tiers of the cities, which are the delivery points for the BPO type of services. So we have, of course, the capital, which is Warsaw. We have two other larger cities, which is Krakow and Wrocław, and we call those three as a tier one locations. But then we have another layer of very fast developing locations. Tri-City is one of them. Then we have also city of Poznań, Łódź, Katowice, and few others. You asked me about the Tri-City. Why was it chosen? So first of all, Tri-City is the fastest growing agglomeration when it comes to the BPO or SSC or IT investments in Poland. Yes, it was even faster than Warsaw was the last year. So for us in Pro Progressio, we do cooperate with the cities where BPO investments are very welcome. And this is how we also choose the locations for the purpose of organizing our forums and the galas. This year, we were in Tri-City. In the previous years, we were in the other locations.
And it really impressed me the first day that we've been here, some of the different sites that we had the chance to check out, some of the commercial real estate is truly world class. And I think that when the rest of the BPO world gets to know that, as you say, there are choices within Poland, certainly the Tri-Cities is going to probably be very much top of the list. And we're at the end of the event. We've seen pretty well all the presentations. You've wrapped up. We're in the midst of waiting for our gala evening to start, and we can't wait. Wiktor, what do you see as the main takeaways from this year's BSS Forum? What do you see as the key learnings that you would like to have everyone come away with? And what did you take away as the key points of perhaps intellectual curiosity as we finish up today?
So because of the, let's say, large scope of the topics of the subjects which we were covering during the forum, I think there are at least few takeaways which are worth to be underlined in here. So first of all, people want to meet people. So maybe it is not too big business summary, but we had nearly 400 people attending the event, which is just a week or 2 weeks after the pandemic limitations. And it was seen and proved that people want to talk to each other and share whatever they want to share. Yeah, this was absolutely fantastic, seeing all of those happy faces. Secondly, if we touch the area of nearshoring or offshoring, for example, also based on the results of your survey, we can see that Poland is one of the most preferable global locations to grow this business. It was mentioned by you, but it was also mentioned in few other discussions which were happening during the forum which we had. So I am convinced that we are on a right path to even make stronger position of Poland on the global map of the BPO destinations. The third one is that we are, as a business, very much looking on the comfort of employees within the offices. So it was also underlined in a few discussion panels that this work approach to comfortable working area is very, very important for both small and big businesses. So I guess that we need to look into the future, that we will come back to the offices, but we will treat an office like our second home, so more comfortable than just pure desks or the chairs. Yeah, so this was also underlined. And I guess that the world is becoming even smaller than it was earlier on, because we had a number of visitors coming from abroad. We had people who visited BSS Forum coming like you from Canada, but we also had visitors from Ireland, Slovakia, Italy, Germany, Ukraine. So this is only proving that the community of the business support services wants to work together. Doesn't matter in which country we are organizing this kind of an event. We did it in Poland, and there was an international community in here, but I am more than sure that the same group of people will be very much willing to go for similar events to UK, Germany, or US.
It's very true. In fact, on that topic, I've got one coming up that's being organized by our mutual friend, Mauricio Velasquez, along with the BPO Association in Colombia in a few weeks' time. And I think you're right. People want to get out. They want to see each other. And it was interesting, Wiktor, because as I think about being at my first live event in about 2.5 years, something that struck me was the extent to which I found myself getting a little bit tired through the course of the day. And I put it down to the fact that not only are you going out and you've got sensory overload, you're not used to meeting this many people all at once, but also, as you said, we had about 400 people who were registered, and I'd say a good number of them did show up. And you're in small enclosed spaces. The oxygen is getting sucked out of the room. And again, we're not used to that. We've been sitting at home in front of our computers for so long. So it was such a wonderful occasion to be able to mix and mingle, to be able to grab a coffee with individuals who you might just know over a computer screen or that you haven't seen in a while. And I want to pick up on what you were saying in regards to Poland being ranked the second most favored offshore delivery destination for CX, obviously tied with the Philippines and closely behind the number one ranked India and South Africa that also tied. Wiktor, what do you put down to Poland's ascension to this silver medal spot? What do you put down to this rapid ascension that we've seen, especially the last 2 or 3 years, at least since I've been serving? I've never seen Poland so strong in so many different demand markets.
So maybe I will start my answer with one very short question to your side. Do you know when the first call center was established in Poland?
I can honestly say I don't, and I'm interested to know.
So it was 1997. This is the time frame within which the call contact center, or CX industry, as we call it now, has been developing in Poland. Of course, in 1997, the first one was the domestic one, so which was supporting only the local market, and then it grew up to support the international markets. This is over 2 decades already of growing the industry. And I must say that within those over 20 years, it has changed a lot. But there were always very similar aspects which were in the scope of interest of the local and international investors providing the BPO CX services. First one, which is no longer true, was the low cost. Yes, Poland was a very low-cost country in the late 90s, but it has changed within the last 20 years. We are never longer the cheap destination. And if somebody is looking for the cheap destinations, I am more than sure that there are such ones either in Asia or in Africa or in some other destinations. But then there are 2 even more important. The second one is the multilinguality. Poland is one of those destinations on the global map where you can find many languages spoken on very high professional level. And that is why you can find in Poland the call contact center operators who are using over 30 or sometimes over 40 languages on their regular daily basis to support their clients. The main global brands are already in Poland, like let's mention Transcom, Swisscom, Teleperformance, Armatis, Concentrix. Those are companies who have sometimes not one, not more, not two, but even 4, 5, 6 or other number of the operation centers based in the Polish cities. And the third one, which is, I think, also very much important in the current times, is the quality of work. So the quality of operation centers which are operating in Poland doesn't matter if from Warsaw or Tri-City or some other destinations, other locations, they are proved to be on a really, really high level. So I think those are the reasons why the CX industry started to operate in Poland over 20 years ago, grew within that time, and has a really nice perspective to grow even further.
What do you see as the biggest challenges to Poland's CX industry or outsourcing space going into the next couple of years, Wiktor?
This is a very good and very tough question. I guess that the first answer would be that this is already a market with a number of competitors, but competitors have its pros and cons. First of all, the pro is that if there are my competitors, it means there is a proof of concept done already, so maybe it is a good location for me. But if there are too many competitors in a certain location, maybe it will be harder to find proper number of people in a short enough time. But the good thing of Poland is this multi-location, which we mentioned like a few sentences ago. Yeah, if we take into consideration that there are over 14, if I'm not wrong at the moment, locations where you can set up an operation center, smaller or bigger, it means that there is still a plenty of room. But I would put that this competition is one thing. For some of the international players who are not too much familiar with the geography of Poland, they think that current war in Ukraine may be a threat to establish a business within Poland. But Poland is considered to be a secure destination. We are in EU, we are in NATO. So this is quite securely showing that we have no, let's say, bigger risks from the military or economy perspective, which might hit the country. And that is why that even within the pandemic times of 2 years, we have seen the increased number of new BPO investors who came to Poland. I can tell you that only within 2021, there were 78 new players who decided to enter Poland and start their business within our country. But challenges, I would say competition is one thing, and this, let's say, not too good orientation in the geography of the country might be the two reasons.
Fair points on both of them. And I think, as you say, very relevant points to be thinking about as the industry continues to seek to grow. So just a couple of final questions for you, Wiktor.
Sure.
A fun one. I was delighted when I saw that the theme of this year's BSS Forum was the title of one of my favorite songs by the Scorpions, Wind of Change. Can you talk a little bit about what Wind of Change signifies in the context of outsourced services from a Polish perspective?
Sure, of course. Wind of Change, if we, to be honest, we have connected it with the Scorpions song. Because this song was about big changes in Europe a long time ago. Already from this perspective, we can say it was quite a long time ago. And when we in Pro Progressio wanted to find out what could be a good theme for this year's event, we were 2 years after pandemics, work from home, isolation, and so on. So we needed some changes. And this change, this word change, was all the time touching us. But from the positive perspective, we wanted to see the positive results. We wanted to have a positive change. And that's how, because we also listen to a lot of music, to be honest, in our company, we thought Wind of Change might be good. And yes, then we connected it with the theme of this song. So we just felt well with this title. And I guess we did some big change with this event. Yeah, we did a change of the people moved out from their homes and came to the event. We did changes in discussing the whole subjects which we wanted to be covered within this meeting. We even broke the borders. You came from Canada. Come on, this is not only within Europe. We were transatlantic this year.
Well, I tell you, and that raises a really good question. What can we expect for next year's event?
always people ask us those questions because each of the annual events organized by Pro Progressio is different.
Yeah.
Every year it is absolutely different. I can tell you, first of all, I cannot tell you where is it going to happen because I still don't know it. This is something what we are now starting to work on, and probably within the next quarter, we will feel comfortable to share information where we are going to be. But I can tell you what you can expect on the next year's event, because the way how Pro Progressio works is that we are listening very carefully to the market. We are listening to the companies who are providing services and who are using the services of outsourcers. And we find out what are the real needs of the market. This is how we create the agenda for the for our event. And this is the reason why people who come and join the BSS forums, once they start a day with us, they end the day with us. Your session was the last one, and you had a full room of people. So I guess this is the best proof of why people are coming, because they are very much interested in this, what is being delivered on that event. So for me, now it is a very, very hard work to be done within the next months to find out what are the real needs of the industry. And this is what we are going to cover on the next year's forum.
Well, if next year's forum is anything like this year's forum, it will be a smashing success. Congratulations to you and to the team at Pro Progressio once again, as well as your partner sponsors. I think that this is truly not just obviously because it's the first event I've been to in the last 2.5 years, one of the best ones, but literally in all my career as a market advisor and analyst, I think it is truly a standout. And everything that you did in terms of your effort and the execution, it was A+. So Wiktor, once again, my sincere thanks for the opportunity to participate. And we look forward to finding out what's going to be going on in 2023.
Thank you very much, Peter, for all the insights which you have presented also to our guests and delegates who participated in that event. It was a big pleasure to have it like that. Every event is bigger than the previous one. So for your listeners, for the listeners of CX Files, I hope that some of them we will meet on the next year's BSS forum.
I hope so too. And before we go, it's probably a good time to talk a little bit about your podcast. Can you tell a little bit about your podcast that you put out on outsourcing and how our listeners can access it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for this. I am recording 2 podcasts. So one is in Polish, so for people who speak Polish, and this one is called, I will say it in as an English translation, BSS with no secrets. So those who are Polish speakers and would like to know the secrets of the BSS industry are more than welcome. And the second one is called Good Morning BSS World. So another connection to the famous movie this time, not the music, but Good Morning BSS World is more or less touching the same area of subjects than this Polish one. And my podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or any other podcast platform which is available worldwide.
Great stuff. Well, I hope everyone takes the chance. I've listened to the English language one and it's outstanding. So I'd encourage everybody who's interested in what's going on in the outsourcing world to check them out. Again, Wiktor, thank you very much. And we look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. We really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. You can reach myself, Mark Hillary, or Peter Ryan via LinkedIn. Please also leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast provider, as that helps more people to find us. As always, we'd like to thank Chris Haig at Traction Media for the CX Files graphics. See you next week.